of deep affection, a great interest and pleasure in something. That is what the dictionary defines it as. And when you turn to 1 John chapter 4, I won't be long, I promise. But 1 John chapter 4, starting in verse 8. It says, "He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love." So for someone to say that they are a Christian, they have to have love showing in their life. If you don't have love showing in your life, then guess what? You don't know who God is, because God is love. He is the very definition of love. When you think about what God has done, it tells you in verse 9, it says, "In this was manifested the love of God toward us, because that God sent his only begotten Son into the world that we might live through him." God loved us so much that he sent his only begotten Son. You know, I couldn't imagine sending Elijah to die for a bunch of people that were ungrateful. And that is the way that I see the world today, as a bunch of ungrateful kids that are saying, "Well, we don't care what you did for us, God. We don't want to obey your commandments. We don't want to live by your laws. We don't want to live by what you say is good, because we don't think it's good anymore. We call it evil and say that it's hate speech." That is what the world sees it as. But, you know, in John chapter 13, verse 34 through 35, it says, "A new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if you have love one to another." And this is one of the greatest things that I think that the church has ever had, is when someone comes in through those doors, they should be able to feel the love of God. If they feel tension, they're more than likely not going to stay. If they feel like everybody's fighting, which I've heard of instances where churches have broke apart because there was fighting and bickering amongst them. But when there is love within the church, it kind of makes people interested to want to stay. They want to say, "All right, you know, I feel like I'm wanted here." As what Sister Angie was talking about, you know, we can show love by words to some degree. I want to go ahead and turn over to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. We're going to start reading in verse 4. And I am using large print, so I can actually read pretty good from where I'm at here. I have to remove my glasses. But anyhow, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, starting in verse 4. And this is talking about charity, but where charity is, you can substitute the word love in its place. It says, "Charity suffereth long, and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never faileth, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail." And I'm going to stop there. And let's go back to the beginning there, and let's substitute the word charity for love. And say, "Love suffereth long, and is kind. Love envieth not. Love vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. So when you think of love, it should be all of that. It should be all of that and more. Love, in my opinion, is not quick to anger. Sometimes, and I would say that's probably not even my opinion, that is something probably more biblical than anything. But anyhow, love should be what people see coming from someone within the church, coming from someone that calls themselves a Christian. When Jesus Christ came to die on the cross, he came willingly with a love that I don't think the world understands. They spat upon him, they mocked him, they called him names, and they crucified him. But he loved them anyhow. He didn't stand up and say, I'm fixing to come at you and I'm going to tear you apart. He could have. He could have put an end to it. But he loved us enough to endure all of that. How much more should we love one another? How much more should we put one another's needs before our own? Sometimes I think that we may get so involved with what we have going on that we forget about our brothers and sisters, about what they may have going on. And we may get upset at them. Why did they do that? And we may end up going around talking about them. Lord, God forbid that happens. But we may go around talking about them and saying, can you believe that brother so-and-so or sister so-and-so ended up doing that? When in reality, we should be taking our brothers and sisters before the Lord in prayer when those kind of things arise. And that we should go to them and say, brother, I've seen that this happened. Is there something that I can do to help you? Is there something that I can do to maybe work with you on this? Sometimes people may be sitting right there on the pews hurting, and sometimes we ignore it. Sometimes we may see it and we're like, Lord, what do we do? What should I do? But I believe that Jesus has already answered that for the most part. And that is to show love. You know, when we see our brother and sister hurting, let's get up and do something about it. In 1 John chapter 3, verse 18, it says, my little children, let us not love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and in truth. So, I can tell you all day that I love you, but if I don't do anything to back it up, you're not going to believe it, are you? If I don't do something whenever you're in need to show that I love and I care for you, you won't believe it. So we have to love one another indeed. We have to put action. Love is an action word. It means that I care enough that I'm gonna stand in the gap for you. I care enough that if I see you hurting, I'm gonna do what I can to mend it. I care enough that if you are in need of food, I'm gonna bring you food. If you're in need of ministering, I'm going to try to minister. If you're in need of anything, I'm going to try to meet that need. That's what love is. So, the world also has this backwards as to where they think that if you love me, you're not going to tell me that I'm doing wrong. And this was talked about in Sunday school class also, about Jesus didn't sit amongst the sinners and tell them that they weren't sinning. He spoke the truth in love. If I love you, I can't see that I would let you go to hell and not do something about it. I can't see that I would not speak the truth when I know the truth. And hopefully redirect you to the truth. This is the kind of love that we should have operating within the church. When you have that kind of love one for another, then there's a unity that is, well, we know what the unity is in the church. We all know what it is, and we all feel it. But sometimes I think we get involved in ourselves and we forget that, hey, that's my brother or my sister over there. I need to help them. I know I've been guilty of just setting idols sometimes. I don't believe that that's God's will for any of us here. We're all here for a purpose. We're all here for something that He has planned in our lives. If there is something that God wouldn't have you here if He didn't have you here to meet someone's need. Now, many think that the church is just a place where we come to get strengthened, in that it's a place that we come to hear the Word of God. But I'll tell you, the church is also a place where we come to minister one to another. That's how we show love, is by ministering one to another. So, I'm sorry it's not very long, but it is something that I felt like I needed to hear myself. We know the scriptures. A lot of us have grown up hearing the scriptures about love and what it is and how it operates and everything. But sometimes we're quick to forget about it whenever somebody makes us upset. We allow the flesh to overcome. Paul said that he had to crucify the old man daily. Crucify the flesh daily. We need to get our flesh under subjection when we have it rise up. I realized this the other day. I was sitting in a drive-thru at Burger King, and I was minding my own business. I felt a bump from behind me. I thought, I didn't let up on my brake. Something just nudged me forward. So I looked in my mirror, and I got rear-ended. And I got out, and I was a little frustrated. I was like, how do I get rear-ended in a drive-thru? And the first thing out of the gentleman's mouth was, I'm sorry about that. I'm like, okay, can you back up off my car? And the lady in the drive-thru window, she said, I think he just bumped your tire. I said, well, he done more than that, but just back up off my car. I could see myself I was getting aggravated and frustrated with this gentleman when it was just an accident. It wasn't something that he meant to do. And then I got back in my Jeep and I was like, well, I could see myself getting frustrated for no reason. And I thought, well, I need to get back out of the Jeep and make sure he's all right. So I got back out, and then I realized, that's not who God wants us to be, so quickly irritated and frustrated. But in times like that, that's when we are able to minister. And we should be able to minister and stop being so quick to wrath. And I made sure he was all right, and he finally moved forward and everything. And so, but I was like, I just couldn't believe I got rear-ended in a drive-thru. It didn't do no damage, not to my car anyhow, but his. the bumper was messed up on it. But, you know, I believe that God used that as a teaching lesson for me, even though I might not have visibly showed it to him. I think he could tell I was frustrated because I'm like, I can't see nothing here because, you know, you're still on top of my Jeep. So, but anyhow, the same reactions, you know, growing up with my brothers and sisters, my same reactions was, you know, they hit me, I'm going to hit them back. Let's not have that operate within the church like that. You know, we should realize that sometimes when people hurt us, it's because they're hurting. And that they don't mean to, but they got a lot on their plate maybe at that time. And maybe they need some help. Maybe we can take some off their plate and help them out. So